Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Dracula Untold, starring Luke Evans, Dominic Cooper, Sarah Gaden, Art Parkinson, and Charles Dance, directed by Gary Shore. Now, before I get into this movie, I have seen this movie before in theaters and haven't thought about it again until this review. So, what is this untold story? Let's get into it if there is an untold story. We open with the backstory of Dracula that makes no sense as we move on to the year 1442 as Vlad, played by Luke Evans, is looking for something. And does the audience know? No, as the backstory and the entire plot makes no sense whatsoever, as I can't make sense of this movie. And Vlad, along with a couple of other men, go in a cave where bats come out as they go inside, and one of the men gets killed by something I believe is a vampire, while Vlad escapes because his sword lights up. In the daylight, and rides back home to Castle Dracula. And how is that a name of a castle was killing me from the get go? And I believe it's in Transylvania as Vlad learns of the vampire creature Dracula, led by a master vampire, played by Charles Dance. And he's the only actor in this movie that is not miscast, but everybody else is, in my opinion. Vlad comes home to his son Marina, played by Sarah Gaden, and son Ingerus, played by Art Parkinson, for the night, and they celebrate something as Brother Lucian comes in and insults Vlad and demands 1,000 boys to fight in a war for the Sultan Mehmed, played by Dominic Cooper, from Captain America the First Avenger as Howard Stark, the younger version, in Hungary. And the Ingerus is afraid to fight in the war when they made a peace for a long time ago. And Vlad talks with Mehmed and begs him to take him and forces Vlad to take him as well as the 1,000 boys. And what Mehmed demands makes no sense. And unfortunately agrees to to take Ingerus despite Vlad doesn't want him to go. And the dialogue is so badly spoken as this plot is so bad I'm laughing my ass off. Vlad tells Ingerus to go back to his mother and stops the men from getting him as a soldier and other than the 5 actors I named in the cast list. I can't tell who's who throughout the entire movie, and that bothered me. And Vlad goes to the master vampire and asks him to save his people and his family and to protect his land, and the master vampire gives him his power by making Vlad drink his blood and becoming a vampire. And the cinematography is ugly in this movie, as this is an ugly looking movie from start to finish. Vlad hears things being fed and as his eyes turn red, and he sees outer space, and this can't be a Dracula movie. This just can't be, as I don't get how he sees outer space and all that is bothering me while Vlad comes back and they're in the middle of a war attack. And Vlad makes a speech he won't give the boys away as he promises his home that and fights the bad guys led by Mehmed and knocks each of their asses down. And what made me laugh was how one man could beat up a bunch of soldiers with his powers. And there were times I was bored with the movie as despite it's 92 minutes long. But the way this movie makes no sense was boring for me. Like, I can't stand this movie. Vlad and Marina were having intercourse, and sorry about that, I had to bring it up. And Vlad almost bites Marina's neck, but he chooses not to and goes outside and gets some air and sees a man whom I'm guessing is the movie's Renfield following him. And Vlad tells him to stay away from him. And says, yes, master. And that's when I'm thinking, yep, that's Renfield to Luke Evans' Dracula. While the next morning comes and Mehmed looks for Vlad and Marina sees Vlad is scarring and wondering what's happening to him and shows her he's a vampire, which is corny enough for damn sure, which is what this movie is. And Vlad's can't move out, and Vlad already left as he waits for the darkness to come in so Vlad can fight Mehmed and more of his men outside Marina. And another men see Vlad as a vampire, and this movie is so stupid. Vlad gets back to Castle Dracula and warns the citizens of Mehmed's men coming there to collect 1,000 boys, While they march during the day, and the Renfield looking guy finds Vlad as Vlad hides from him, and he approaches Vlad with a sword, and his skin burns, and people become afraid of Vlad like he's the devil, while Marina tries to explain to what he is, but people in the movie are stupid enough. They become afraid of Vlad, and Ingress runs upstairs as Vlad explains why they're alive and says it's because of him and how he saved their lives. And Ingress comes to his father like he's not afraid of him. And the acting in this is tedious, and I haven't cared for one single character throughout this movie. And I'm an hour into this 92-minute movie. Vlad is approached by Marina as she's worried for her husband's life, and he goes somewhere and sees a bunch of bats to prepare for battle. And Maymon's men approach, and Vlad has control over the bats and leads them to Maymon's men to attack and kill them off. And Vlad flies down to Maymond and knocks him off his horse and sees it's not Maymond as he attacks inside the castle and approaches Marina and Ingress and grabs the boy and beats up Marina, and Vlad tries to save her life, but he can't reach her in time as she falls to her death. While Ingress is captured by Maymond and Vlad biting the neck of Marina so she can become a vampire as Vlad screams out the heavens. And I just don't care, as I'm almost checked out of this movie at this point. Vlad gives someone whom I'm thinking is his brother some blood, so he can become a vampire and buries Marina and gets to Maymond and with the vengeance, as the townspeople have the damn power, as well as kills the man who threatened him at the party in the beginning of the movie. And Vlad fights Maymond while Maymond has the boy hostage and weakens Vlad with silver coins, which makes sense as vampires are weakened by silver. And Maymond almost kills Vlad, but Vlad gets up and kills Maymond, and Vlad calls himself Dracula. And at this point, it wasn't earned for me, as he doesn't deserve that title, but Vlad gets Ingress out of Maymond's captivity, and there's no more of the bad men left, as Vlad kills the last one off, as the vampires want to drink Ingress's blood. And Vlad has no choice but to give the boy to the Renfield looking guy with a cross as they run away, and the vampires ash away, even Vlad, who sort of looked like a design of the Day of the Dead. And Ingress becomes night and burns the silver coins, and Vlad wakes up randomly as we move on to present day, as Vlad finds a woman who looks like Marina, and they go out with each other and gets followed by the master vampire, and the movie ends there. And that was a terrible climax, but how bad was the movie? Let's get to the rating. I'll give this movie a 2.3 out of 10. Other than the 5 actors I named throughout the movie, I can't tell who's who, nor can I tell what in the hell the plot of this movie as this can't be a Dracula movie. This just can't be. And with an exception of Charles Dance, the actors are miscast in their roles, as they're all terrible in this film, and the cinematography is ugly, as this is an ugly looking movie from start to finish. The plot makes no sense whatsoever, as I was having a hard time following it, but luckily it's a 92-minute movie. While there were times I was absolutely bored with it, and the way it made no sense was just making this movie boring for me half the time. And that's not fair for a movie that acts like a B movie, but at the end of the day, I can't stand this movie. The movie is very corny, and I can't make sense of any of this pile of crap, as it was making me laugh my ass off, and it's very sad for a Dracula movie, as this is a solid non-recommendation for this movie, and at the end of the day, I didn't like this movie for how stupid it goes, and let's hope there's better movies in this future. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me, and next time I will be back with Renfield, and until then, I am Dracula, and I will suck your blood.